If you stand on a busy street in Shanghai, Beijing, or Guangzhou, it looks like any other giant modern city. Cars, towers, delivery vans, people running late. But beneath that street is another layer of the city most people never see. Not empty dirt, not dead space, a working world. Train lines, utility corridors, pump rooms, storage networks, civil defense basements, underground malls, service tunnels, emergency systems. And once you realize how much of modern China has been built downward, the map starts to look different. Because China didn't just build upward into the sky, it built into the earth. And the strangest part is this: none of this has to be exaggerated to feel unbelievable. Online, people sometimes describe this as a hidden underground empire. That goes too far. There is no solid evidence of a literal secret civilization beneath China, but the documented reality is still extraordinary. Because under many Chinese cities, rivers, and mountain corridors, there is a vast and growing network of infrastructure designed to do three things: move people, keep cities functioning, and in a crisis, help them survive. So the real story isn't fantasy, it's something more unsettling than that. It's how normal this has become. To understand why China went underground at this scale, you have to start with a simple truth. On the surface, China is hard to organize. Its biggest cities are dense, its interior is mountainous, its rivers divide major regions, and its weather can be violent, flooding streets, overrunning drains, and paralyzing traffic in hours. Now add history. During the Cold War, Chinese cities built large numbers of air raid shelters and civil defense spaces. Some later became storage rooms, markets, or were simply abandoned. They were not futuristic. They were concrete responses to fear, but they left behind something important: a planning mindset. The idea that the underground could be more than buried space. It could be protection, it could be logistics, it could be insurance. And over time, that old survival logic merged with modern urban pressure. Because when a city runs out of room, the land below starts to look less like geology and more like real estate. For centuries, rivers like the Yangtze were barriers. They shaped trade, divided cities, and dictated where roads and railways could go. Then engineers changed the rules. Across China, cities built road tunnels and metro tunnels beneath major rivers, including crossings under the Yangtze in cities like Shanghai, Wuhan, and Nanjing. Some projects used giant tunnel boring machines to drill through soft ground under immense pressure. Others used one of the most dramatic methods in modern engineering, the immersed tube tunnel. Visuals: CGI of huge tunnel sections built on land floated out, lowered into a trench, joined underwater. Instead of drilling the whole route, engineers build massive concrete sections on land, float them into position, sink them into a prepared trench, and seal them together underwater. China used this method in some of its biggest crossing projects, including the undersea section of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau crossing. This isn't conspiracy material, it's public engineering, but it reveals something important. Once a country can routinely build beneath major rivers and coastlines, geography stops being a hard limit. And when geography becomes a design problem, the underground stops being exceptional. It becomes part of the plan. Now zoom back into the city itself. In places like Shanghai and Guangzhou, the underground is no longer just transit space. It's a layered system. A commuter steps off a train below street level, walks through a retail concourse, passes ventilation shafts and service doors without noticing them, buys breakfast, transfers lines, enters an office tower, all before fully seeing daylight. That's not science fiction. That's urban design. And below even those public spaces, there's another layer most people never think about: utility tunnels. These are buried corridors that carry power cables, telecom lines, water pipes, heating systems, and other critical infrastructure in organized, accessible pathways. Which means when something breaks, workers don't always need to rip open an entire street to reach it. This is the part of city life that rarely makes headlines. The technician checking a pump room at 3 a.m., the maintenance crew inspecting cables under a boulevard, the control center operator watching stormwater levels rise in real time. When a city keeps running during heat, flood, or blackout conditions, these hidden systems are often the reason why. And in China, many cities have invested heavily in flood control upgrades too, including deep drainage tunnels, retention systems, pumping infrastructure. and sponge city projects designed to absorb and redirect stormwater more effectively. So no, there is no proof of a mythical second civilization underground, but there is something real beneath the pavement. A support system so large that most people only notice it when it fails. And this is where the story gets even bigger. Because China didn't just adapt to difficult terrain. In many places, it redesigned it. In mountainous regions like Guizhou and around cities like Chongqing, modern infrastructure often means some combination of bridges, tunnels, cuttings, slope stabilization, and large-scale earthworks. Roads don't simply wind around mountains anymore. Rail doesn't always wait for the valley. Engineers drill through ridges, carve corridors into rock, and link regions that geography once kept apart. Online, dramatic before and after images sometimes get framed as if entire mountains mysteriously vanished overnight. Usually, the truth is more practical than that: quarrying, tunneling, land leveling, highway cutting, or urban expansion. But practical does not mean small. The scale is still enormous, and it reveals a larger pattern. When the network matters enough, even the landscape can become negotiable. This is the point where internet stories usually take a hard turn into fantasy. Hidden megacities, secret rail empires, entire worlds sealed under the earth. There is no credible public evidence for claims at that level. But that doesn't mean every underground space is fully visible either. Like many countries, China has civil defense infrastructure, restricted facilities, and strategic sites that are not explained in complete public detail. Some urban developments include civil air defense spaces. Some transportation and utility systems are dual use by design. Some restricted areas show tunnels, shafts, cut portals, or ventilation structures, whose purpose isn't fully obvious from the outside. That's not proof of a buried superstate. It's a reminder of something much simpler. The modern underground is partly public, partly technical, and sometimes deliberately opaque. And once a nation has the money, machinery, and political will to build at this scale, the line between everyday infrastructure and strategic infrastructure can get blurry fast. So yes, sometimes the mystery is overstated, but the capability is not, and that may be the most important part of this entire story. China may not be building a fantasy world beneath the earth. It doesn't need to. The documented world below its cities is already vast. Transit systems, flood defenses, utility corridors, storage space, civil defense infrastructure, under-river crossings, mountain tunnels, emergency redundancy built into the structure of daily life. And if that sounds less dramatic than a conspiracy theory, think about what it really means. It means the most important part of a modern city may no longer be the skyline. It may be the layer you never see. The pump room that keeps the district dry, the tunnel that keeps freight moving, the buried corridor that keeps power flowing. The shelter that waits quietly for a day everyone hopes never comes. That is the real mystery beneath the surface, not whether a hidden empire exists, but how far modern civilization is willing to go to make itself invisible, resilient, and impossible to stop. And once you start looking at cities that way, you realize the future may not rise above us at all. It may descend below us.